The ending to reality, part 1 down below. It always felt fresh, the joy of waking up beside her. It was a new dawn, far from my past naivety. I shifted slightly, feeling her leg over mine, a comforting weight that resisted movement, clinging even in sleep. "Where are you going?" Miranda's voice, groggy with sleep, broke the silence. "Just off for my morning run," I replied. "I'll join you," she said, sitting up and rubbing her eyes, stretching languidly. In that moment, she was breathtaking. Her form moved fluidly as she revitalized her limbs, the ones that had embraced me through the night. When her gaze met mine, a playful smile crossed her lips, revealing the smile I had invested in. I looked away, bashfully. "It's all right, you know. Your gaze makes me feel cherished," she said warmly. "If you ever stop looking, that's when I'll worry." I hesitated. "I just don't want you to ever feel objectified or—" She interrupted, enveloping me in a hug. "Silly, you've always respected me. Before you, things were bleak. Have I mentioned that?" "Every day," I assured her, "and I love you for it." "Miranda, you've revived my happiness," she playfully chided. "Will you ever let me finish a thought?" I was about to share something new about myself. I teased her. "I doubt I can take another of your wild tales." She pouted, then I pulled her close, remembering her vulnerability. Her troubled past was no secret to me. I whispered, teasingly, "Your name isn't Miranda, it's my Randa. Remember that." Her laughter filled the room. "Only you call me that. And it better stay that way," I joked. She grew somber. "Kenny, no one else really sees me." I chuckled. "You underestimate yourself. Have you seen yourself through my eyes?" She hugged me tighter. "To others, it's just a physical thing. But with you, it's different." I recalled painful memories of past criticisms about my intimacy, which momentarily darkened my mood. Sensing my shift, she quickly clarified. "What I mean is, intimacy is more than just a physical act. It's about connection, understanding, and caring, not just physical gratification. They're indifferent to your feelings or what comes after. Their only aim is to have a brief, uninvolved interaction and move on. Kenny, nobody has ever made me feel the way you do. You have such an effect on me, even with the simplest gestures," she said. "Can I finally share what I've been trying to tell you, Mr. Clueless?" She teased. Her playful use of Mr. signaled a return to her usual self. "By all means, milady," I responded. "You're aware of my past struggles with relationships," she started. "My experiences aren't common. But did you know you're the first person I actively pursued? You're my first real relationship." I was taken aback. For a while, I was speechless, processing this revelation. After 4 years together, I was still uncovering new facets of her life. I realized her intense attachment to me stemmed from fear of loss, mirroring my own fears. On the surface, we were an unlikely pair. I'm approaching 70, and Miranda is in her early 40s, just younger than my son, and she oddly reminds me of my daughter-in-law, Kate. I've kept this to myself, knowing Miranda's tendencies toward jealousy and self-doubt. Despite the odds, our shared needs and compatible natures have forged a bond stronger than I ever anticipated. "How did this happen?" I asked. She simply shrugged. "I want you to be my last," she murmured, so faintly I almost missed it. "My Randa, should we consider marriage?" I asked, standing up from the bed. Silence followed. When I looked back, she was hidden under the blankets, motionless. I pulled the covers away and saw her eyes wide with surprise. "Ken, you can't. She stammered. "Let's not go there again," I interrupted. "We've discussed this before. I'm serious about us moving past these hurdles." "Ken, do you really mean it?" she inquired. "Absolutely," I exclaimed. "We have tons of soap. There's the liquid hand soap, dish soap, laundry soap, even powdered soap." "Ugh," she groaned, seizing my hand. "Not that, silly, the other thing. And please, no swearing. It sounds odd when you do it." "Randa, are you?" "MMPH," I started to say, but she quickly covered my mouth to stop me. "Were you about to ask me again?" she inquired with excitement. I nodded. "Just don't. I mean, it's not the right moment." "Oh, you're so clueless. But I adore you so much. And this is. I should probably tell you now. Oh my, this is embarrassing. Your timing is terrible, mister." Her outburst was classic Miranda. Tears streamed down her face, yet she wore the largest grin. "Miranda, what's happening?" I asked. "Should I play the Marvin Gaye record?" Kenny, I should have mentioned this a few days back, but I wasn't sure how you'd react," she explained. "I mean, we're not young." "Okay, that came out wrong. We are mature, but heck, I feel even more mature than you sometimes." "Goodness, Randa, are we getting married or—" I attempted to finish my thought. "Not yet, silly," she retorted. "Look, Ken, well, we're—" "Randa, do you love me, or—" I tried again. "Of course, I love you, you doofus," she interrupted, slightly irritated. "Can you just be quiet for a second so I can tell you that we're going to have a baby, or what?" I was stunned. Speechless, I managed to say, "But I'm mature." Then my mind seemed to freeze. "Are you sure I'm the fa?" I began, immediately regretting my words, realizing the trust we'd built over years might be crumbling. Miranda rushed out of the room and into the bathroom, sobbing. I heard the lock click just as I approached, followed by the sound of her crying deeply. I felt terrible. "Randa, sweetheart, I'm sorry," I apologized. "I was just taken aback. Can we talk, please?" "No," she sobbed from behind the door. Randa, move away from the door, I said sternly. I'm coming through. I braced myself like in my football days and charged. The door held firm, though, and I ended up rebounding and landing awkwardly on the ground. Darn, that stung, I muttered. You had it coming, she chuckled, stepping out of the restroom with her eyes still glistening. Are you okay? I'm not sure, I replied. I need to get fit, Miranda. Darn, I might have to start playing baseball and football again. Darn, I was never good at basketball. And please don't tell me our kid will end up playing soccer. Call me old-fashioned, but I don't see soccer or hockey as major sports. She attempted to lift me up, but I tugged her down to sit beside me on the floor. I've been wanting to talk to you about this for a while, she started. Maybe he'll be into NASCAR, I interjected. Now, that's a real sport for my son. I was worried about how you'd react, she confessed. But in the 4 years we've been together, it's been just us. It really is your child, Ken. Honestly, I was hoping for this. He's going to be the greatest NASCAR driver ever, I exclaimed enthusiastically. And what if it's a girl? She queried. Then she'll be the trailblazing female NASCAR driver and champion, I proclaimed confidently. I guess I'll start teaching her driving right from the get-go, I mused. How about letting her walk first? Miranda suggested, her smile returning. Now you're just being playful, I remarked. Walking's not a prerequisite for driving. She embraced me once more. Ouch, that was painful, I winced, rubbing my aching shoulder. What did you expect, silly? She teased. Our doors are solid oak, and you're not getting any younger. She's going to race for Ford, I declared. No daughter of mine will race for Chevy. Ken, she said softly, do you really want to marry me? I've tried to propose twice, haven't I? I responded. I didn't want you to feel like you had to marry me just because of the baby, she mentioned. Randa, I proposed to you before you even mentioned the baby, I whispered back. I did it because I adore you. Then ask me once more, she whispered. My Randa, the love of my life, will you? I started, but she quickly covered my mouth with her hand. What the heck, Randa? I exclaimed. Don't scold me in military lingo, silly, she grinned. I'll say yes, but not like this. I want a proper proposal. You need to take me to a fancy place, both of us dressed up, and you getting down on one knee. And we should hurry before your pregnancy shows, and the whole town starts whispering we got married in a rush, I interjected. Let them talk, she retorted. Besides, everyone here adores us. It's not like back in Ohio where I'm from, and you found me. We do need to act fast, though, I continued. I've heard that larger wedding dresses are pricier, and before I could finish, I was interrupted by a cushion thrown at my head. That morning's run never happened. Instead, we had breakfast where Miranda announced to all our acquaintances that we were tying the knot. Oddly, no one seemed surprised. Many thought we were already married. The news of the pregnancy only raised a few eyebrows. Still full of surprises, huh? Our waitress, Sally, remarked, looking at me. I just nodded and smiled until Miranda's sharp nudge under the table. Ken, don't let me confront her, Miranda muttered once Sally was out of range. Post-breakfast, we visited the jewelry store at the mall where Miranda chose the ring for the evening's proposal. She had everything planned out, the restaurant, the exact spot for the proposal, and even my outfit. We ended the day with appointments at a salon for a new look. She reminded me to rehearse my proposal, wanting it to be imaginative, dramatic, and above all, heartfelt. This is a once-in-a-lifetime moment, Ken, she enthused. It must be flawless. Perhaps we should have a media team on site, I said with a chuckle. No, but I've got Samantha Green's husband, Al, she mentioned. He's going to film your proposal. What if I mess it up? I quipped. Can we do a retake? No way, I'll just turn you down, she replied, jesting. And then, our future star NASCAR driver daughter will be born to unwed parents. I sensed my life was about to change drastically, yet I was open to the unfolding events. Unexpectedly, good things seemed to happen. Reflecting on the past, despite my contentment with Miranda, I often felt a sense of loss. It seemed the life and people I had left behind were somehow superior to my current situation. Don't misunderstand, I'm profoundly thankful for Randa's presence in my life, a blessing I acknowledge daily. Post-Michigan, I assumed solitude would be my lifelong companion. Meeting her, or anyone for that matter, so promptly was unforeseen, and our age difference led me to initially dismiss any romantic potential. Despite my reservations, I hadn't anticipated marriage or anything similar. I always thought someone her age would eventually captivate her. Each day with her was a gift, and even though she assured me of a lifelong bond, I remained skeptical. Miranda then decided she needed to practice showcasing her ring, aiming to catch the light just right to draw attention to it. She sent me outside again to fetch the ring. That's when chaos unraveled, turning my life upside down. Ken, the voice called from behind, soaked in emotion. Turning around, I found myself in an embrace with my ex-wife, my son standing beside her. What are you doing here, Madeline? I inquired, astounded. We hired a private investigator to locate you, she explained. It's time you returned home. Your family needs you. Indeed, Dad, Matt chimed in. Mom's even considering taking you back after you left. I simply stared back at him. Matthew, it's important to check your facts before you speak, I remarked. Otherwise, it might make you look foolish. Ken, we need you to come back, Maddie interjected, attempting to redirect the conversation. Our grandson is sick with the same illness your brother had. And how is that my concern? I questioned. Please leave my property, or I'll have to call the authorities. With that, I turned to head back inside, leaving them on the doorstep. But he's in danger, Maddie voiced. People face challenges every day, I replied. And they all manage to navigate their struggles. Without my help. I had just finished my shower when the doorbell rang. Moments later, I recognized the uneven sound of footsteps, indicating Randa was heading to the door, probably half-dressed. The house fell silent after the door opened, prompting me to quickly wrap myself in a robe and venture into the living room. There, I found Miranda, who was visibly upset, facing off with my daughter-in-law. I should have realized sooner the uncanny resemblance between Miranda, the mother of my future child and prospective fiancé, and Kate. They were not identical, yet shared striking features. Kate possessed an air of sophistication, nurtured by her privileged background, and stood taller, always with a captivating smile. Miranda, contrastingly, had her own appealing attributes and a presence that was hard to ignore. Both women had heart-shaped faces and similarly enchanting eyes, with Kate's shining a brilliant blue and Miranda's a deep green. Their expressions usually differed, yet at times, Miranda's smile nearly mirrored Kate's. At that moment, both were equally furious, and the tense silence was a clear precursor to an impending confrontation. I was desperate to escape the impending outburst of tension. Miranda, what are you doing in my father's house? Kate finally erupted. As I recall, Miranda said sharply, your father wasn't a saint. He struggled with alcohol, and he's not part of this household. You've probably been with so many men you're confusing my father with someone else, Kate retorted coldly. Oh no, I remember him distinctly, Miranda replied. I always remember those who should have been family but instead treated me terribly. I particularly recall those who demeaned me in public and took advantage when alone. He was my uncle, and he crossed lines he never should have. Kate covered her mouth, visibly shocked. Why so surprised, Katie? You were no better. You were my favorite cousin, yet you abandoned me like everyone else. It hurt most from you. I admired you, wanted to emulate you. When you turned away, Miranda, I went to college, Kate interrupted. When I returned, rumors labeled you as promiscuous, saying you'd been involved with numerous men in town, according to everyone, including your own parents. And you believed those rumors, of course, Miranda said, tears starting. At that moment, I stepped in, embracing her. Settling on the sofa, I cradled her, trying to offer comfort. Kate, I think it's time you left, I stated. Her wounded expression pained me. Dad, what's your relationship with her? Kate inquired. She means the world to me, I declared. We planned a special evening tonight, and nothing will interfere. I've already informed your husband and mother-in-law that I cannot assist. It was nice seeing you, but you should leave. Dad, Matt and I divorced, she revealed. I don't understand what's happening between you and my cousin, or why you're unwilling to support your grandson. Can we postpone your plans to talk? No, I asserted firmly. Tonight, nothing could make me change my plans. All right, we'll talk tomorrow, she conceded. We need to resolve this. There's nothing to resolve, I maintained. Dad, please, she pleaded. I may not be your biological daughter, but I've always felt like one. Can't we talk and clear the air? He said no, exclaimed Miranda. And you can't of him. If you don't back off, I'll give you a run for your money. Miranda, stay out of this, retorted Kate. This is a family matter. Do you see this? Miranda gestured, her ring catching the light. I am his family now. He's mine. We're getting married and we're going to. She paused, stick together forever. I'll come by early tomorrow, Kate declared. I'll be alone, so maybe I can figure out what's happening with my cousin and me. Then, we'll have a discussion about everything. I sense there'll be trouble. It might get messy for all of us. After Kate departed, Miranda looked at me, tears brimming in her eyes. You don't really love me, she accused. You're only with me because I remind you of her. Randa, that's nonsense, I responded. If you don't see the truth soon, the only thing we'll be discussing tonight is passing the condiments. Oh, stop, she countered. I need to watch my salt intake. I'm expecting. But you're not in this alone, I assured her. Nothing has changed. My love for you is unwavering. Everyone else can take a back seat. You and the baby are my world. I'm going to invite my whole family to our wedding, she said with a smirk. All right, I agreed. We'll sort out the invitations once you've got all the details. But I thought you said you had no family. I have you and our little future race car driver, she said, smiling. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get ready. That evening was everything Miranda hoped for. It might have lacked spontaneity, but it was rich in emotion. When I knelt down to propose, all eyes in the restaurant were on us. Before I could pose the question, Miranda shouted yes, so loudly that even the kitchen staff came out to see what was happening. I wasn't surprised when our dessert was comped, suspecting Miranda had a hand in it. Back home, Miranda wanted to relive the moment, watching the proposal video repeatedly and sharing it online. By the third viewing, I was wiped out and ready for bed. Miranda, however, had other plans. Our night was more than just sleep, it was an intimate connection. Though our lovemaking might have seemed ordinary, it was profoundly passionate for us that night, filled with intense emotion and a deep sense of connection. Although our connection wasn't fierce, the subtle movements had a profound effect. We were intensely drawn to each other, feeling as though every touch was amplified. The climax was overwhelming, seeming to surge through me with incredible force. Miranda appeared to be overcome with emotion as she experienced the height of passion alongside me. Afterwards, we shared tender kisses, eventually falling asleep in each other's embrace. The next morning, we got up to exercise. I ran, while Miranda accompanied me on her bike. Returning home, we noticed Kate waiting on the porch. She remained silent, observing from the kitchen as Miranda and I freshened up. Post-shower, the three of us prepared breakfast and enjoyed it outside. As we finished eating, Miranda opened up to Kate. She confessed to idolizing Kate, emulating her style and actions, aspiring to her life. Despite Kate's infrequent visits home from college, Miranda remained captivated by her life's narrative, from falling in love to starting a family, all of which seemed enchanting from afar. Miranda shared her struggles of coming from a strict and challenging family background, leading to her late blooming and social experiences. When Kate's life took a significant turn, Miranda felt stuck, working to fund her own education. Her job at a restaurant, especially during a busy event, left her exhausted. One night, accepting a ride from acquaintances and their offered drink, she was naively unaware of their intention, leading to a troubling experience. To this day, my memory of the event is blank. The only evidence I had was a video presented in court. I found myself by the roadside near my home the next morning, my clothes missing, feeling violated and lost. I confided in my mother and we involved the authorities. My recollection was limited to the 2 individuals I had left the diner with, but it turned out there were 6 involved in taking advantage of my drugged state. The incident was recorded and misleadingly portrayed my participation, which rapidly became the talk of our small community, tarnishing my reputation. Consequently, the perpetrators were acquitted, and my social isolation began. Friends and family withdrew. My mother became increasingly critical and suggested I move out. My job at the restaurant ended under the pretext of negatively impacting business. Subsequent jobs were fleeting, leading me to a lonely existence as a barmaid. Vulnerable and seeking affection, I was easily charmed by a man who appeared genuine, but our relationship was brief and ultimately hurtful. My naivety continued as I failed to see the truth about his personal life, further damaging my standing in the community. My life spiraled into a series of poor relationships. To escape the constant judgment and loneliness, I turned to alcohol, which only perpetuated a cycle of regrettable encounters, often with strangers, leading to more drinking to numb the pain. This cycle drained me, leaving me with a distorted view of intimacy and a deep-seated yearning for genuine connection. By 30, I was viewed unfavorably in my town, and any attention I received was fleeting and insincere. The label of being promiscuous, thrust upon me by constant ridicule, began to shape my actions, despite never engaging in it for material gain. Fortunate to avoid health issues, I nonetheless felt abandoned by my family and community. A small gesture of acceptance or kindness would have meant the world to me, but all I truly sought was someone who genuinely cared for me. The women in my family distanced themselves from me, yet the men, my uncles and cousins, frequently visited. As time passed and I aged, their demeanor shifted negatively. I became the butt of their jokes, merely an object for their amusement. Once they lost interest, due to newer, younger distractions, I was disregarded, likened to a washed-up has-been. Kate inquired, "How did you lose your teeth?" Miranda replied, "A cousin of ours, the eldest son of Aunt Esther, Horace, or Horse as they call him." I was feeling extremely ill one day, too sick to engage in any activity. Usually, I would acquiesce to avoid confrontation. I kept my distance from family and acquaintances as the dynamics felt peculiar. Nobody appreciates rejection, especially from someone with a tarnished reputation. It leads to ridicule among peers. Horace was insistent, despite my protests. During a confrontation in the bar, amidst my pleas of no and stop, the crowd found amusement in the situation. When he approached me, I couldn't hold back and vomited on him. The bar erupted in laughter, further humiliating him. In a fit of rage, Horace struck me, causing severe injury to my face, resulting in the loss of my front teeth. The bar's patrons, rather than showing concern, continued to mock me. The bar owner expelled me for causing a scene, rewarding Horace instead. That encapsulates the essence of my existence in our small Ohio community. I was the target of derision and aggression, with my family members often being the most cruel. This relentless mistreatment persisted until a significant incident on July 3, 2010, the eve of a local celebration. That evening, a few inebriated patrons from a neighboring town suggested a demeaning act involving me, which they considered a form of camaraderie. When I resisted, I was forcibly dragged out, under the threat of losing my job, by the bar owner who showed no concern for my well-being. Then I heard a voice from somewhere in the bar. "Back off, guys." She clearly said no. 2 of the men returned to their seats, resuming their drinking, but 4 others remained, visibly agitated. My unlikely defender seemed outmatched. He was considerably older and smaller than the others, yet his sobriety was his advantage. He made his way through the crowd towards me, a path opening as the bar's patrons sensed an impending altercation. I was on the floor, overwhelmed and slightly inebriated. Yet, seeing him stand protectively above me, facing down the foreman, made me question his sanity. That woman is nobody's business. She declined, he asserted firmly. You really think you can intimidate us? One of the group sneered, moving aggressively towards him. It seemed inevitable that he would be overpowered. But, with surprising agility, he seized a wooden chair, using it to fend off the attacker with a forceful swing. The assailant collapsed, stunned and subdued. His companions hesitated, their resolve faltering. Just as the tension peaked, the sudden sound of 3 gunshots echoed through the bar. The police had arrived, one officer discharging his firearm into the ceiling, a reckless act given the residential apartments above, including mine. The officer's dramatic entrance momentarily halted the chaos. Miranda, we've had enough of your troubles. It's time for you to leave this town. We uphold moral values here, the policeman declared sternly. She's innocent, Ken protested. She was merely at work when these men attacked her. The officer shared a derisive laugh, dismissing the gravity of the situation. And you think this warrants arrest? One mocked. Sir, you must understand, she's not the perpetrator here, Ken insisted. But the officer's prejudices were clear. We're not going to charge you for the altercation with that gentleman. But I'd advise you to get in your car and continue on your journey, said the officer who had been involved in the incident. Drive carefully, sir, his partner added. You're aware of the consequences of reckless driving, right? Doesn't matter, Ken retorted. In a small town like this, you don't have the means to catch me if I decided to speed. With that, he left the bar. The patrons snickered at the law enforcement as Ken departed. One of the officers, looking to vent their frustration, turned to me. Didn't we tell you to leave town? He said with disdain. You're at the heart of this mess, now go. I need to gather my belongings, I protested. His glare cut through my inebriation, prompting me to stumble out into the street where the warm air hit me, intensifying my disorientation. As I staggered, I felt myself being steadied by strong hands before everything went black. The last thing I heard was a patron's voice, lamenting my departure from town. When I regained consciousness, it was the next day. I felt surprisingly refreshed, despite the hangover, thanks to the appetizing aroma of bacon, toast, and eggs on a tray before me. Looking up, I met the compassionate gaze of a kind stranger. Ready for breakfast? He inquired. I mumbled, still groggy. Where are we? We're about 50 miles south of where I found you, he explained. There's a bus station across the street from this motel. I can give you enough money for a ticket home, after things settle down. I nodded, touched by his consideration. He seemed genuinely compassionate, despite the sorrow and pain in his eyes, hinting at a normally joyful disposition shadowed by recent troubles. We ate in silence, each lost in thought. I wanted to express my gratitude for his kindness. Did you like the breakfast? Was it okay? I ventured. What? He asked, puzzled. You know, being together, sharing a room. I inquired. Honey, we just shared the space, he chuckled. You were on the bed, and I was on the couch. I got a single room because you had too much to drink, and I was worried you might need help. You were really out of it. I've heard those stories about famous people having accidents because they were too intoxicated. I just wanted to make sure you were safe. I was stunned. It was rare to meet someone who had the opportunity but chose respect instead. And here was this stranger, showing genuine concern. He could have just left me behind, but he didn't. Surprisingly, he had tucked me into bed, fully clothed, and slept on the uncomfortable couch himself. Where are you going? I asked. Back to family. Not much family to go back to, he replied. I'm searching for a fresh start. That resonated with me. I was at a loose end myself and felt drawn to accompany him. In summary, we traveled together, finding a place that felt right. After staying in a budget motel for a month, we bought this house. It didn't look like this initially. Ken and I did the renovations ourselves. I learned handy skills like painting, plastering, and even a bit of landscaping. We even built this deck with our own hands, thanks to online tutorials and some hardware store assistance. During this time, Ken was always respectful. The only thing he insisted on was that the house was ours, not just his, until I found someone more suitable for me. I kept assuring him that I wasn't planning to leave. After getting dental implants, a whole ordeal, they not only improved my appearance but also gave me a reason to stay close to Ken, especially during the recovery. I might have exaggerated my discomfort just to enjoy his comforting embrace a bit longer. I felt compelled to take action. Attracting attention had never been an issue for me. A simple look my way usually did the trick. Yet, with Ken, it was different. During our house construction, I would wear snug t-shirts and short shorts, often finding myself in close proximity to him, yet he remained indifferent. I was certain Ken wasn't gay, as we had exchanged our life stories during our cross-country drives. He was divorced, but the reason behind his long marriage ending remained a mystery to me. Then the local women started causing trouble. These southern ladies, particularly the older ones, had a knack for being subtly aggressive. I blatantly pursued Ken, bringing him homemade food and suggesting social outings, blatantly ignoring my presence. I ended up discarding the food they brought every day and my patience wore thin. I noticed Ken showing interest in one particular woman, whom I'll describe as voluptuous. She was slightly older than me but had a commanding presence, enhanced by her attire. This woman came over one evening, talking about a church event. Ken seemed interested, and after he left to prepare, we had a conversation. She hinted at the social opportunities at the event, perhaps trying to be friendly. She was quite talkative, mentioning the difficulties of finding compatible men at her age. Her words sparked anger in me, and I eventually asked her to leave, warning her to stay away from Ken. When Ken returned, he noticed her absence. I firmly told him not to invite women over, asserting my place in his life. This led to our first major argument, where he accused me of interfering with his interactions, and I countered, stressing my significance to him. Our exchange ended with me highlighting the age difference between myself and the woman who had just left, drawing a clear line in our relationship dynamics. He told me he didn't see me in a romantic way, I was just a friend to him. That's when I lost it and laid everything out for him, declaring that he was mine and always would be. Then, in a moment of softness, he wiped away my tears, quieted my rant, and gave me my first meaningful kiss, even at nearly 40. It might sound odd, but despite numerous shallow encounters, a genuine kiss was new to me. Kissing, after all, carries a warmth and closeness that's rare. His kiss was so tender it made my knees weak. I felt a rush of warmth and an intense connection. When he pulled me close, I felt a wave of emotion unlike anything before. It was the first time I felt a deep desire, not just physical, but emotional as well. But then, he paused the moment, sat down, and turned on the TV, leaving me confused and standing there. Frustrated, I plopped down beside him, nearly breaking the couch. He wrapped his arm around me, looked into my eyes, and shared his fears. He cherished our daily routines and feared changing them might ruin what we had. He valued our connection more than the physical aspect, fearing it might complicate things unnecessarily. I couldn't help but silence his doubts with another kiss, pondering over his words. After getting him a beer and leaving him to his TV, I subtly moved my belongings into his space, signaling a new chapter for us. That night, we didn't take things further physically, but we grew closer, sharing our thoughts and comfort in each other's presence. I reassured him that the intimacy we shared, even just in a kiss, was enough to build on. I also gave him a warning. I said we could wait until he felt ready for intimacy, but if he continued to bring strange women home, it would not end well. I made it clear that he was important to me, just as I was to him. That was our first year together. The last 3 have been even better. We faced no troubles or challenges until you appeared at our door, she explained to Kate. So you're his former daughter-in-law ... and my distant cousin. But that's irrelevant now, Kate. We've both moved on from our pasts. We weren't content back then, and we're not about to dwell on it now. We're looking forward to a promising future, so while we appreciate your visit, we're not interested in rehashing old times. Miranda, I had no idea, Kate responded. Honestly, we just lost touch. I was young and in love. Suddenly, I had a husband, a child, and a new life. And yes, our family back in Ohio had its issues. I remember my father struggled with his habits, as did many men in our town. It was a hard-working, blue-collar community with little room for anything beyond daily toil. Their lifespans were short, and their escapes from reality were brief yet intense. Not all their choices were admirable. If only I had known. Before Kate could finish, the doorbell interrupted. Miranda went to answer it, leaving me with Kate on the deck, feeling she was the one I needed to confront. Kenny, can you come here? Miranda's anxious voice called out. I hurried inside to the living room, where Miranda stood by the open door, facing Matt and Maddie. Oh great, I muttered as Kate joined us. Now the whole gang's here. I wanted to handle this, Kate snapped. I couldn't leave you alone with him, Matt interjected. What does it matter to you? She retorted. We're not together anymore. And who's to blame for that? He shouted back. You wanted the divorce. You initiated it. I didn't want it. I wanted you to show some effort, to prove that I mattered to you, Kate argued. Nonsense, Matt countered bitterly. You were fixated on my father. Even after he left us, you sided with him. Mom said he found you enchanting. Now it's clear why he left. He found someone just like you and disappeared with her. Maddie was looking at Miranda with sharp eyes but remained silent. Let's go, Matt, she urged. This is all too strange, Kate remarked. Mom, you've just walked in and seen Dad for the first or second time in years. Now, you find out he's living with my cousin, and it seems like I'm more surprised than you are. What's happening? All right, we need to sort this mess out, I declared. I have my own life to return to, and unless we clear up this situation, you all won't leave me in peace. So, let's behave like grown-ups and sit on my deck to discuss everything. We all moved to my deck. As the sun climbed higher, Miranda and Kate fetched some cool drinks for everyone, and I extended the awning to provide some shade and comfort. Once everyone was comfortable, with Matt and Maddie at one end of the table, Miranda and I at the other, and Kate in the middle, we started our discussion. Firstly, Matt, I haven't wronged you, so why are you so aggressive towards me? I inquired. It's because you left Mom without any explanation. And my wife was constantly let down by me because I wasn't as successful as you. I wasn't a big-time business tycoon, so I could never measure up, he replied. Both Kate and I chuckled. Let's leave, Maddie suggested. They're not taking us seriously. They're mocking your feelings. Kate, you start, I said. Matt, you're being foolish, Kate told him. You've always been this way. If you don't change, you'll stay that way. Yes, I love your dad. I've admitted it. Are you satisfied now? Matt was speechless. I love him tremendously, she continued, getting close to Matt's face. You're terrible, Miranda snapped. Take it easy, cuz, Kate said with a grin. Matt, I love him like a father. He loves me like a daughter. My own father was a neglectful alcoholic who never cared about me or his children. And you, Matt, I wished you were more like your dad. But it wasn't about the money. I wanted your time and affection. Your dad adored your mom, treating her exceptionally well. They were inseparable. She was his world. Even after decades of marriage, they were always close. He adored her, and it's the same with my cousin now. Just look at them, they're probably holding hands under the table this very moment. Miranda raised her hands in exasperation. You should see the struggles my cousin has faced. It's a testament to the love he's capable of giving. All I ever wanted was to feel valued by you, not the wealth or success. When I mentioned divorce, it was a desperate plea for you to fight for our relationship. Yet you seemed to surrender too easily. Matt interjected hesitantly. How could I have known? Kate continued. Even after our separation, I clung to the hope that we'd reunite. Unlike me, you seem to have tried moving on with others. Matt confessed. No one has filled the void like you, Kate. I've been constantly feeling lost, thinking the divorce was a reflection of past family issues. I realize now how mistaken I was, envying my father for no reason. Matt then questioned, Dad, why did you leave Mom abruptly? And why ignore Dylan's need for help? Kate added, we were puzzled by your sudden departure, considering the love you both shared. I responded, did she never explain? It seems I was always portrayed as the villain. My love for her was boundless, yet that fateful day, returning early from a jog, I was confronted with the ultimate betrayal, finding her with two men, shattering my world. One of them was my close friend Will. Matt exclaimed, but Uncle Will passed away shortly after you left. I admitted, yes, I confronted Will aggressively. However, his death was due to health issues, not our altercation. Despite his actions, he managed to protect his image, attributing his injuries to an accident, perhaps to spare Chelsea from the truth of his infidelity. Matt then asked, Dad, why did you leave silently? Couldn't you have at least communicated with us or confronted Mom about the truth? I did, I affirmed. I didn't just disappear. That's not what happened. I consulted a lawyer, had the divorce papers prepared, and offered your mother a fair settlement. I even allowed her to keep the house, which will pass to you when she no longer needs it, and then to my brother Ben's children. They exchanged glances. I had a final conversation with your mother before I departed, I continued. She shared her reasons for her actions. It left me no option but to walk away. I don't understand, Kate interjected. Why would she do that to you? It doesn't make sense. She mentioned I wasn't exciting enough, I revealed. Miranda couldn't help but laugh. I never said that, Maddie protested. I just mentioned we were too predictable. And it wasn't entirely my fault. I was constantly feeling an urge and wanted to explore new things. It wasn't until you left that I discovered my health issue. My hormones were imbalanced, affecting my behavior. But you chose to be unfaithful rather than discuss your problems with me, right? I queried. And you preferred to let the children think I abandoned them rather than sharing the truth. Ken, I love you dearly. What was I supposed to do? My actions threw my life and our marriage into chaos over trivial reasons. After 4 decades together, you should have understood. I've changed now. It's been years since I've been with anyone else. I want you to return. It doesn't matter if you support Dylan or not. I just want to mend our marriage, Maddie pleaded. He is home, Grandma, Miranda responded firmly. You had your opportunity and lost it. Leave my house. He's staying with us. And who is Dylan? Dylan is my son, Kate explained softly. He's battling cancer. The doctors are trying various treatments, including radiation therapy, chemotherapy, and nuclear medicine. The cancer is hereditary. The best hope is a bone marrow transplant from a family member with the right antibodies. That's tough, Miranda sympathized. Why do you need us, though? Dad has the necessary antibodies. He once saved his brother's life. He could help. Absolutely not. Miranda interrupted. He's nearly 70. We don't know the risks of such procedures. We're expecting a baby, and I want its father to be healthy and present for its birth. Kate and Matt were stunned, while Maddie's expression turned steely. Dad, why won't you assist your grandson? Kate asked. And Miranda, he's your nephew. He's part of our family. Family be damned, Miranda declared fiercely. The only family I care about is Ken and our child. I get where you're coming from, Miranda, Kate replied. Aside from Mom, though, what harm did any of us do to you? Kate, you know I adore you, I interjected. But since he reappeared, Matt has been shooting daggers at me with his eyes, fueled by his envy and the fabrications his mom spun. He never even considered my side of the story. But Matt isn't Dylan, Kate argued. What has my son ever done to? Kate, remember when I walked in on your mother-in-law with those 2 men? I started to explain. Wait, but, she interjected, her eyes widening in realization. She turned furiously towards Maddie. You despicable woman, she yelled. You've tainted my child. Kate, Maddie pleaded, he forced me into it. If I hadn't complied, he would have exposed us to your father. And, believe it or not, I love Ken too much to let that happen. I was cornered. Dylan was an adult, only a child in your eyes. And you, Ken, don't even think about marrying her, Maddie snapped. The moment you try, I'll expose your bigamy. You left me, remember? No, I didn't. I protested. And you're aware of that. You left me enough money, she smirked. And you filed the papers. But in our state, those need to be signed and submitted. I never did that. When your lawyer inquired, I misled him, saying we reconsidered. You should have left some contact info before running off with her lookalike. Then, chaos erupted. Miranda, with a furious cry, lunged at Maddie. I saw her charge but reacted too slowly. Miranda's punch landed squarely, sending Maddie tumbling backwards. Matt leaped up, defending his mother. Kate positioned herself between the enraged Miranda and the rest of us. Matt, looking up, pleaded with Kate. Kate, I love you, and you were right all along. Dad's innocent. But I can't stand by while she attacks Mom, even if Mom is in the wrong. Matt, my love for you remains, but this isn't about us or your mom. It's about getting Dad to support my child. And your mom is sabotaging everything for us. I don't care about getting married, Miranda said fiercely. I struggled to calm her down. Everything was perfect before they interfered. Our child will have 2 loving parents. I want these people to leave my home immediately. You heard her, I stated firmly. Kate and Matt quickly helped a disoriented Maddie leave my premises. That evening, I spent time soothing Miranda, reassuring her that we would be all right. Now, for the concluding update. This should be the moment where everything resolves neatly, where everyone achieves their desires and lives contentedly. However, life doesn't always follow such a smooth path. I returned to Michigan to deal with my divorce, consulting the same lawyer. Despite Maddie's dishonesty regarding our initial separation, my lawyer said it had no bearing. He advised that I could file for divorce again citing abandonment, given my absence from the home for over a year. Yet, the process would be lengthy, at least a year to 18 months, particularly if Maddie contested it. And that's exactly what she did, hiring a lawyer and falsely claiming we had recently reunited for a family event, which I couldn't deny. I visited Dylan, my grandson, unchanged in his selfish behavior, now almost 30 and yet to take control of his life. I expected an apology for his role in my marital breakdown and the turmoil it caused, but instead, I found him in a neglected apartment, funded by Kate, nonchalantly smoking. He smirked, assuming I returned to assist him medically. His presumption and lack of gratitude infuriated me, but I restrained my anger, unwilling to jeopardize my well-being for him. Kate and Matt reconciled and both implored me to aid Dylan. I attempted to convey my distress to them. Seeing him doesn't bring back the fond memories of our fishing trips, I lamented. Instead, I'm haunted by the traumatic scenes of the past, his actions, and the aftermath. He remains unchanged and unrepentant. I could sense Kate and Matt were upset with me, but they couldn't do much about it. They attempted legal action, yet my apparent frailty and age played in my favor, leading to their efforts falling short. Dylan was severely affected by his treatments, losing his hair and retaining his difficult demeanor. Kate sought compassion for Miranda, who was significantly pregnant by then, but to no avail. The twist of fate was that Dylan succumbed not to his illness but to a virus, coincidentally on the day my daughter, Danica, was born. The intensive treatments had severely weakened his immune system, leaving him vulnerable. The day we laid him to rest is etched in my memory. While I mourned, my sorrow was for the boy he once was, not the man he became, or failed to become, in my eyes, as he never truly matured. Miranda and I attended the funeral primarily for Kate's sake. Maddie made several attempts to corner me alone, unsuccessfully. Miranda was always by my side, and we even approached the casket together. Matt spoke little, and notably, the funeral was scarcely attended, underscoring Dylan's lack of friendships. The general sentiment, except from Miranda, who was firmly against it, and Maddie, who was indifferent, was that I could have prevented Dylan's demise. I refrained from pointing out that my health-conscious brother also met his end. Dylan, meanwhile, had continued his unhealthy habits until his final days. That funeral marked the last gathering of us all. Kate plunged into a deep depression, severing connections not only with Miranda and me but also with Matt, realizing his unchanged nature after a brief reunion. Facing Maddie's resistance to divorce, I reassured Miranda that the legal title didn't define our union. Her wearing my ring meant we were united. I then confronted Maddie, pleading for her to let the divorce proceed, which she rebuffed. She went to extreme lengths, proposing an outrageous act to provoke me, which only fueled my anger. Left with no alternative, I reverted to my old ways, giving her what she desired by halting the divorce, freeing me from our settlement terms. As Maddie hadn't earned during our marriage, she was reliant on the funds I accumulated, which I then withdrew, leaving her without financial support. Her last financial link to me was severed when I removed her from my retirement account. It felt harsh and unforgiving, but there was a twisted satisfaction in it. She appeared at my door, unleashing her fury on both Randa and me, prompting me to call the authorities and have her taken away. The decision I made next might seem heartless, but it aligned with my newfound perspective. Reflecting on my old life only dredged up sorrow. Miranda and our daughter had become the center of my world, my beacon for the future. Clinging to bygone connections seemed pointless. With that conviction, I took a drastic step and sold the family home, inadvertently displacing Maddie as well. The house had been a family heirloom for generations, yet I felt compelled to break from tradition and embrace new beginnings. Maddie's current situation is unknown to me. There are whispers and rumors, but they hold no importance in my life now. 5 years have passed since those tumultuous times. Nowadays, I find solace in the simple moments, like watching my daughter, Danica, joyfully navigate our spacious driveway in her toy car, her laughter echoing with each lap. At 5, she's already showing a competitive spirit, outpacing even the boys in her makeshift races, never once tasting defeat. Miranda might not agree, but I sense that Danica is ready for something more challenging, like a go-kart. She's as beautiful as her mother, yet it seems she's inherited my fierce nature. I can't help but imagine her future in racing, giving those professionals a run for their money. I just hope I'm here to see her shine. My comment: one screwed-up family. Kate threw it away with a stupid ploy, rather than telling her husband she needed more of his attention. Miranda had a rough life and survived the evil behavior of the human race.